What's up guys, John here from the REI Contractor Show. This is part 2 of our wiring series, and today we are talking about ungrounded wiring. A lot of people don't know about this one. So as we said in the last episode, I'm John. I'm a master electrician and owner of T&L Wiring Pros here in Hamilton, Ontario. So today we're going to talk about ungrounded wiring. In this photo I got right here, this is what you see in a typical 1940s to 1950s, 60s type situation. You'll see this thick black cloth going into a smaller than normal box. And the boxes you'll notice are not the typical 4 by 4 1/4. They are usually about 3 by 3 1/4. So what you need to know about this type of wiring is it's very prominent in the bungalows, especially since we do a lot of conversions and a lot of the shows about duplex conversions, is that you got to know that a lot of the main floors are going to be covered in this wiring. Now insurance and a lot of things don't have the same feelings about ungrounded wiring as they do knob and tube, but even though my opinion that it's actually worse, and this is just my opinion, the cloth that it was done in was very brittle, and the connections were also done the solder hockey tape and sometimes old connections, so these ones tend to break more and have a lot more problems. The only good thing compared to knob and tube is all the connections are done in a steel box to limit exposure. So what's it here? In the next photo, you'll see a bunch of examples of 2-prong outlets. So this should be a pretty good giveaway for you when you see them, that you're going to have either knob and tube or ungrounded wiring depending on the age. This wiring, as I said before, was done at the end of knob and tube, so you're talking late 30s to about 50s before we started switching into grounded wiring. Here's what you have to know is that if you say you want to finish a basement, do a conversion, or you find a buried junction box, by code it cannot be buried, it has to be accessible. In a duplex conversion, we have to rewire these out, otherwise you're going to have to fire access panels everywhere, and it's going to really ruin the look of your building. If you're having unfinished basements, it's completely okay to have junction boxes anywhere that's exposed and it can be accessed, because when the connections break, we have to be able to fix them. So in this type, we're going to see this a lot, as I said, in the bungalows and in old 1940s homes. So you have to be aware that most of the time you're going to have to rewire these in order to do the work that we do, especially in a conversion, because of those junction boxes. And at that point, it's be a lot easier to rewire at that point. So a lot of people I'll run into want to save the cost, obviously, with not having to rewire. The problem is that you go from $5,000–6,000 in cost to rewire a bungalow when it's open like that to $10,000–12,000 when it's open enough to make damage in your brand new ceiling. So I highly recommend investing in there and noticing it first. Again, this is something an electrical contractor should check out for you, but this one's a little bit easier to identify than knob and tube. And you'll see it at the cables. One thing you have to be careful about is, as we were going into the grounded era, so late 50s, early 60s, that grounding wasn't code, but the wires were there. So a lot of times the wires will actually have the grounded wires in them, but they'll cut them off. So sometimes we can save that. So if you see wire in the panel that's grounded, but you don't have a 2-prong outlet, there's a chance that we can save it, but just know that that happens. So don't be fooled that it says grounded, doesn't mean it's connected. So this one is the least known of the types, and it's honestly one of the more pain in the butt types. So just be careful for it, and if you see it, identify it, or your home inspector brings it up. Just know that we're going to have to deal with it. Now, there is a couple cheat ways to deal with ungrounded wiring. So insurance companies don't like it, or ESA doesn't like it the way it sits, but if you are to GFI protect, GFI is ground fault circuit interrupter, and we can put those in the panel or at the outlets. If we protect the wiring by it, it gives you some shock protection, which the ESA will accept and your insurance company will accept. That is a lot cheaper to do it than that. So those GFI receptacles are the same ones that you'll see in your kitchen, your bathroom with the reset buttons. Those are called ground fault circuit interrupters, and it's basically a little computer, because whatever goes out must come in with electricity. It's like gravity, whatever goes up must come down. It works the same way with electricity. So when electricity is working perfect, you don't have any shocks or fires happening. Whatever current goes down the line comes back on the line, and that's what GFI reads. And if it's 1/10 of a milliamp off, which is very little, it'll shut itself off. What happens is, because these wires don't have any grounds, and the steel box gets energized by the live wire, there's no reason for the breaker to trip, okay? The breaker needs to read a dead short, which is basically live touching grounded, in order to trip. So you can imagine that you have this old radiator there and your box becomes live, but it doesn't trip, and you touch both, that water system's pure ground, you're gonna get fried. But if the GFI was there and it senses you, even sees the touch you both those, you won't even get shocked. It'll react so fast and shut itself off. So that's basically my piece on ungrounded wiring. Again, trust a pro on this one. Not really a homeowner job. Just be careful. It needs maintenance, that kind of great stuff. Again, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I have a lot of fun doing these. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you